All right, what's up, guys? So when it comes down to these pairs that we've been trading, it's AUD, USD, EU, UJ, UCAD, Ripple, and US 30. So I'm gonna do a quick analysis of these pairs. It's Wednesday, about 8 p.m. right now. It's the second of the 10th. NFP is this Friday. If you guys are not aware what NFP is, basically first of the month of every month, there is a lot of information being put out basically when it comes down to the employment of USA and overall it basically tends to do wonders when it comes down to the market. But if you know me, I don't trade based on uh, fundamentals. I trade based on technical. So that's probably not going to be as important to me, but I'll still keep an eye on it just because there has been cases where the market has gone completely berserk during that day. So if you guys are just remain a little bit cautious when it comes down to this Friday. Okay, so let's begin with the first pair, AUD USD. So as far as AUD USD is concerned, I took an L for that this week. I'll admit that because yeah, it happened. There was a breakaway from the bearish trend line support retested at this level. This is on the monthly, just to remind you guys. Now let's go to the daily. So on a daily, we see this information, very clear cut information. If you guys, I want you guys to tell me what this is before I ever get a chance to talk about it. I'm gonna give you guys a few seconds just to analyze and see what I see. Okay, that's it. So when it comes down to the wicks on the downside, this is on a daily. Overall market has been respecting this bearish trend line multiple times, and we see wicks on the downside. This is very good news if you ever want to get into a buy in any pair, especially when it comes down to having those wicks coexist on higher time frames, just because of the fact that they're more relevant as far as how pronounced they can become. So when it comes into the 4 hour, let's delete this setup. Market has been finding consolidation within these levels. Not saying that it's 100% sure that it's going to maintain an upward trend, but more than likely, based on the analysis that we have this consolidation being created on the 1 hour. So what we're expecting based on this information is simple: market to break away from here, retest, and push forward to these next highs, its previous highs, which is around this level at 60 pips. But if I'm being completely honest, once it breaks away from with a bullish candle, what we're expecting to see is the market maintain that bullish run. So just because of that, let's keep an eye on this specific pair and just analyze based on how this specific candle closes. I would say on the 1 hour, because 4 hours time frame tends to be a little bit more. How do I explain it? It does take a lot longer time, but you can't see as much details when it comes down to it. So when we look at the 1 hour on AUD USD, wait for the bullish full body candle to close up above this level, and once it does, there's potential for a trade setup at least to these levels. So that's AU. Now let's look at EU. So EU, if you guys saw my analysis on Friday, Monday, I don't Saturday, I don't remember exactly when I did it. Um, but on this specific trade, I expect the market to maintain an upward trend just because it broke away from this bearish trend line. So now let's look at this information a little bit clearer. I'm not gonna go into the monthly. I'm gonna start going into the monthly whenever it comes down to the beginning of the week. Other than that, I'm just gonna keep it at that. So this is on the 4 hour basic information. Let me look at it daily. So the way that I literally the way that I analyze the market, I'm literally speaking about how I think about the market literally as I go. So if you guys are watching this, you are basically listening to my thought process whenever I do take a trade setup or I look at a setup. This is basically my analysis for the weeks and stuff for the week throughout the week. I do look at the charts like throughout the days. Like yesterday, I look at it. Day before, I look at it. But to have a thorough analysis like this, I do them like every 1 or 2 days. And just whenever I see potential setup, I just wait for it to basically fulfill so I can get into a trade. Overall, when it comes down to the daily, so just the reason I mentioned that is because don't complicate it. This is literally how I trade, and maybe there's more lingo in my mind, but if I'm dumbing it down, It's not really that much. It's just basically me talking like as if I was basically thinking through the whole process of how to take a trade. So this is on the daily. We see bearish channel being created, respected multiple times. Market hit that bullish run, which was expected. 4 hour, we found a lot of resistance on their support, which was also expected. That's why I marked it up. And now what we're waiting for, it is tomorrow's going to be Thursday, so I'm probably not going to do any more setups for you. If you're looking for a setup, I would highly recommend waiting until Monday or Tuesday, because of the fact that it's already fulfilled a high movement, and overall, you do not want to be caught on the wrong side of this trade whenever it comes down to NFP. So just wait for it and just keep a wary eye. But overall, potential for this market and maintain a bullish trend just has to wait until these candles form. So just because of this consolidation, we're going to wait and see. Potentially expecting the market to consolidate a little bit more. Whatever happens within the next few hours, if the market's retest on the downside and creates a new lower low and a new lower high, the expectation for the market to continue on a bearish trend is highly probable. So just keep that in mind. UJ. So far up, I believe about 100 pips. Yeah, 100 pips. So pretty good trade. Not letting it. This is literally the mindset. So let's say about a year ago, 2 years ago, whenever I was trying to catch 30 pips or even 20 pips, I thought that was the hardest thing in the world. And the reason why it was the hardest thing in the world was because I would overthink it. I would think that I needed to catch 20 pips. I needed to catch 40 pips. I needed to do that. And now the way that I trade, I don't need to get 100 pips. I don't need to get 200 pips. All I look at is how I analyze, how I expect the trade to fulfill, and that's it. If it's 200 pips, then it's 200 pips. If it's only 30 pips, it's only 30 pips. It's all based on my analysis. I do not try to over predict or under predict anything. I just basically take it as it is and just fulfill whatever I need to fulfill. Nothing necessarily personal whenever it comes down to trading. So break away from this bearish trend line, retest. This is the monthly. So now let's look at the daily. Market has respected this bearish trend line. It's within that zone. It has created a sense of consolidation. What we're expecting is the market to maintain a downward trend. Overall, market has found a lot of resistance at this support. Support at this resistance based on this information. So this is very vital because we could potentially see the market start to consolidate and remain back into these zones. So I'm going to be cautious with this one. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to be cautious just because of the fact I do have the expectation for the market to maintain a downward trend, but the fact that I'm seeing wicks and not enough momentum on the downside is also giving me another idea that I could potentially put my stop loss at least to these levels, just to even out my TPs and my losses. So even if I get out at 70 pips, that's not bad at all. To be honest, 70 pips is not a bad trade. Whenever you're profitable, it's not a bad trade, to be honest. So UJ, expectations of market to maintain a downward trend, and once it does, break away, retest, and fulfill all the way down. But overall, just keep an eye on it. Just because you're in trade doesn't mean it's going to do exactly what you need to do, because I did not know this information prior to taking this trade. And now that it's creating this information, I have a different understanding, a different perspective of what could potentially happen. So just the fact that there's not a lot of momentum, this consolidation, I would wait and see what's going to happen. So look within this little zone. If the market breaks above this and has a bullish engulf candle or just a retest and then maintains that direction, the high probability of this market to maintain a downward trend is not highly probable. Probably more than likely we're going to start seeing consolidations and slow up build if that does happen. If it doesn't, then it might maintain a downward trend and hit my TP. And if anything, it hits my stop loss that I will move up to these levels. UCAD. UCAD actually hit my TP. I was literally having my TP all the way up here. But then I started seeing all of this and I moved it down just a little bit more within these levels, which is surprising that it exactly hit within that zone. Overall, market setup for this is basically simple. UCAD is very volatile. Don't take it with a grain of sand. It doesn't react like any other pair overall based on what I see. So market is within a zone. It has has found support within that bullish trend line on the monthly. When it comes down to the dailies, within that support resistance zone, it has found a lot of resistance within these levels. And we look at the 4-hour expectation for this market to maintain an upward trend is not probable just because of the fact that there is a lot of resistance within these levels. So what we need to see on a 1 hour to basically get into the trade setup with UCAD is basically, and this could, a lot of people would possibly get into the trade just because they see a breakaway from this resistance and a retest. But since UCAD is very odd in a sense, I would just wait for me personally to get in the trade. I'd rather be safe than sorry. I don't need to catch every single trade. If this does fulfill and goes into a bullish run, then I'll lose that trade. But either way, I'm not going to get into it just because I see this. I have to wait and see what exactly is going to happen. So my expectation for this and for me to get into this trade would be a breakaway from this exact resistance. Once it breaks away from that, the potential for the market to maintain an upward trend is highly probable. But if it breaks below this zone again and it retests, then I expect the market to start consolidating again within these levels, and that places sell up to down to these levels. All right, Ripple. So Ripple. If you trade Ripple, yeah, I don't have anything to say because I really like Ripple. Out of all the cryptocurrencies, Ripple is my favorite. Not even Bitcoin. I mess with Bitcoin for a bit, and I lost too much money to think about it anymore. But that's a monthly. So go to daily. So overall, basic information. I need to delete these. These are no longer relevant. But I'll delete them once I'm done with this trade. But overall, market expectation, bearish trend line being respected multiple times. Let me look at more information because this is all things I went through on Sunday, I believe, Sunday or Monday. I don't recall. But we see this bearish trend line being respected multiple times. Okay. My mind just blanked right now. Sorry. Okay, so we see this bearish trend line being respected multiple times. When it comes down to the downside, there's high probability for the market to maintain an upward trend. But if you want to get into this trade, as far as Ripple is concerned, let's look at the 1 hour. Okay, so I like the setup just because of how it looks on small time frame. So we see this bearish trend line respected once, twice, 3 times, broken away, and then retested on the upside on support zones. So now we start to see a consolidation. If you want to be safe and not sorry when it comes down to this trade, wait until it breaks away from this resistance above that level, retest, and within that information, you can potentially see the market maintain an upward trend. But if you do expect this specific pair, cryptocurrency to maintain a downward trend, I would highly wait until it goes back into these consolidation zones and find support and then breaks away that support to create resistance. And then that's the potential for a downward trend. But the fact that I don't expect Ripple to go any further just because of the fact that we have, in a sense, reached a low that it has not reached in a long time, and just the wicks on the downside is I don't have a high probability of this specific cryptocurrency to maintain a downward trend. But that's just because of what I see. It could definitely change with time, so just keep an eye on it. All right, so US30, my favorite thing to trade ever. So monthly, same information. Market does not push above that. If you know that information, it's simple for you to get into a trade setup. Market has respected this a bullish run, broken away from it. Let's see on the 4 hours. So we see this channel, simple channel. Let me show you how easy this was. Market broke away from this channel, bullish trend line, broke away, retested within these zones. Market had a setup right here, consolidated, entry 2, entry 3, and you see potential for the market to maintain a downward trend within these levels. I did not catch the whole move. I'm not upset about that. I caught a good amount of it. But the high probability of this market maintain that downward trend is looking kind of iffy just because of this trend line that I just identified. So let's look at the 1 hour. Where's the trend line? Where does it start? Okay, respected there. Respected there. Okay, so there is a probability for this specific pair. I don't know why I misstick those things. There's a probability for US30 to basically maintain an upward trend based on this information. So honestly, if you want to get into a trade setup, just because of that trend line, I don't take those lightly when it comes down to US30 because they're very important. But I would wait for it to break away from this level of consolidation. Once it breaks away from here, if you do expect the market to maintain a bullish run, I would highly recommend that you put your TPs within these levels. Not over here, that's being greedy, but the fact that there's a lot of support within these levels, the possibility of the market consolidating within these zones is highly probable. Also, just keep an eye on it. I might actually get into this trade setup, but this is just to have an idea of what potentially could happen. So this is expecting what potentially could happen with US30, but just keep an eye on it based on this information alone. Um, Always make sure that you do your own thorough analysis. And what I mean by thorough analysis is I mean that you, your personal self, looks at these graphs to such an extent that even though I say something, you might come out with a different perspective, and that's completely fine because I'm not 100% right. I do not plan to be 100% right. In fact, I do not want to be 100% right because then that's I don't know. You need losses to build character, especially with trading. You really do, and it builds a lot of character. So just keep in mind that you have to do a thorough analysis. So that's it for today, guys. Have a great night, and I'll see you guys probably on Friday to have a recap.